Hi everyone, so we're looking at the NQ here on a 250 tick chart, which I'm going to go over the ES and another time frame too. But so for here we have the overnight high up here, the overnight low down here. From the high of today we had this downtrend break, push to a new low, which pushed into this reversal right here. And so this is the 250 tick chart. Now I'm going to compare this to the 2000. So on a 2000 tick chart we can obviously see a lot further back. So we had this uptrend break. First attempt at a new high, second attempt at a new high, and right around that measured move, price reversed on down. You can see we made this first attempt to reverse, and then second attempt to reverse. It's clearly a two-legged move down, but then, upon this reversal attempt, after that second leg down, price attempts to make a reversal. First attempt higher, second attempt higher, and then it just failed like crazy and just shot down. So price pushed down into here. You can see, even though you can't see anything right here, this is all a downtrend. So we have downtrend, break, and then first attempt lower, second attempt lower, failure, and then that is ultimately what's pushing price up here. And so back up here, we have this uptrend going, and this measured move was met. It's very valid. I mean, it pushed right up to it, had a great bounce, made two attempts to reverse, made another retest, another couple attempts before pushing on through. And so what would have been nice to see, of course, is two clear legs retesting on the top of this measured move, but instead it just kind of just went right down to it and it got very choppy. But we can still get that. We're pushing out right now. It could push up, make a couple legs back, and even if it doesn't, it could just make a couple legs down. If it holds above the EMA and makes a good failed second entry, then we can get along. Because if price, let me just draw this out real quick here, and so if price makes a couple legs down here, so push up, two legs down, that would also be the two attempts at a new low for this downtrend right here. So downtrend, break, first attempt lower, second attempt lower, and the legs, of course, might not look exactly like this. I mean, they can change and vary, but the point is, if we can get a push up, couple legs down, that can give us another long opportunity, because price generally reverses at measured moves, and if you're going into an uptrend and it meets a measured move and pushes right through, then you're going to want to look to continue with the overall trend, because it's telling you the bulls are so strong that they're not affected by a measured move here. So we'll see what happens. It might not do that. Like, if it could push on down here, and then there isn't much room for it. And one thing I want to explain, the reason I have this trend line cut through like that is because, you can just see a little easier when you zoom out. It had like a spike down, spike up. It's very common on a lower time frame chart to that just look like that. Sorry, excuse me. It's very common on a lower time frame chart for this to just be a wick on a higher time frame, which I'm going to see. It might not be the case here. In this one. So what time was that at? So that was at 9:19, 9:18, 9:19, and then 9:18, 9:19. Yeah, you see here 9:19, same time. It looks like a wick, and so I'm gonna draw the channel like this, okay, and then it fits off those highs better. Now if I drew it off way off there, it still kind of fits. It's just not as neat, and there is, and if you draw them like that, that is often where the bigger picture channels that it widens to, you can get a hint of where it's going by drawing it off the wick. But generally, for channels that are in play, you draw them off the bodies like that. And so when you see that, compare it to here. Even though those are bodies right there, you can kind of tell whenever it's really a wick on a bigger picture for chart, because it just has such a sharp spike down, sharp spike up, and when I draw it off of there, same thing, just like on the other chart. It kind of fits, but not really. It could end up holding down here, but for the time being, I'm going to have it drawn the other way, where it's fitting off these highs better. And then if it pushes through here, then I'll see how it ends up holding here. Like this could end up being a fully valid channel from here. It could end up holding from there. But you just got to stick with what price is doing in the moment. And so for now, I'm going to keep it how it fits best. And so anyway, we'll see what happens here. This downtrend just played out with a break to a new low. So, downtrend break, new low. It could still make a second leg down though, which, with a good reaction could offer us a good long. Because the downtrend would be played out. We would have to be concerned about some kind of wider trend line and then how the next swing would be affected by it. But But yeah, so I just wanted to explain what I'm looking at real quick. Um, so let me hop over to the other chart again. You can see, the downtrend just played out. It's good to, get used to it, looking at the different time frames. It does make it easier to see bigger picture structures on smaller time frame charts if you do that. But yeah, I'll keep y'all updated. I'm gonna probably kill the video now, and I do plan to record trades today. I kind of got to trading a bit late today, um, but no big deal. We're making that second leg down here, so we'll see how price reacts nearing that measured move. Now, due to this overshoot and these sharp spikes down, I'm not going to buy this measured move level because there's a larger measured move in play as well. So overshoot, sharp spike down, we also have this measured move in play, which, it actually has to break the channel at that point. So I'd rather just wait and see how this possibly holds. So, Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and kill the video here. I hope you all have a great trading day, and I'll see y'all in a bit. Hi y'all, I hope you're doing well. Let me just get this all set up here. Let me set up my RR tool. So I'll explain what we're looking at here. Alright, so here's the deal. Overall, price is in this downtrend. So downtrend overshoots tend to lead to breaks, and then in this case here you can see it led to a very sharp spike up, and this is attempting to reverse due to that overshoot. Again, overshoots lead to strong breaks. Now, one thing I'll point out, just so I explain the price action very detailed here. When price shot lower here, what do you see? Even though there's a lot of missing price action right here because of the overnight session, it being right there, price shot lower, but this is a downtrend. We got a break, first attempt lower, it made a new low, failed reversal attempt, and then we got a much larger, bigger picture second leg down. So first leg down, break, second leg down, and then that is when price reversed on higher due to the overshoot. So again, overshoot reversal pushes up into this uptrend here, we get a break, push up to a new high, and so now this uptrend has a break and a new high. It's considered played out at this point. Now, very sharp moves, they generally don't last long. The sharper the trend, the shorter it lasts. Basically, a healthy trend is at a 45-degree angle. And so the steeper the trend, the shorter lasting it generally is. You spike up, it plays out, and then it just shoots on down. So you can see here, we get a downtrend, from that reversal. So downtrend, break, push to a new low. And so this downtrend is now played out because it has a break to a new low. However, this measured move is also still in play at the same time. So, we have to consider it both ways here. The bulls want to reverse because the downtrend played out with a break to a new low, but the bears still want to keep going short because they have a measured move in play. So we have to consider both of that. And when price starts pushing up here, you get your first attempt up, second attempt up. I wouldn't go short right on this measured move. If you tried, you could have made something. But considering that this right here is also one leg, we could get a second spike up like that. And so you want to wait for confirmation after 2 attempts, and then we really never get anything that holds below the EMA. It ends up having a decent reaction. And if you tried to enter on that, you could have gone out, but again, considering this spike up here and this spike up possibility, as a measured move, I would want to wait on confirmation, and it couldn't really get below the EMA after pushing lower. So it's just really not the best spot to get short. And so then here, price pushes on up, it continues up into this uptrend, we get this 2-legged break. It's kind of annoying how it's getting close to my stop here. So we get this 2-legged break, push up, attempting a new high. It doesn't quite make that new high. It basically just makes nearly a double top. And then starts pushing lower. You can see, annoyingly, it's making this 2-legged move down right now. What I was wanting was to get long here because price pushed out. We still had this uptrend still had a break. We can still get a new high. And then we got a 2-legged retest on that right there. and then just buying it up to there. So it looks like a decent entry. I got pretty close to my target there, and then it just kind of dropped on lower. So it's a double top, but it's also lower, and so I figured, okay, it could, maybe it's not counting as a double top. So I just wanted to get in on those two legs down, retesting that range high right there. But there's a reason we put our stops where they go, and in this case here, it's pushing on higher again. So, and I'm not gonna get out at break even. Just because you see it go against you, some people, they'll see that, they'll immediately lower their target straight to break even because they'll get scared. And then the problem with doing that is over time, you're gonna have to deal with price going against you in a ton of trades. And so if you do that every time, ultimately you're just gonna lower your risk to reward. Because then you're gonna be taking a lot of trades where just because it goes slightly against you, now your target is break even and your stop is there on a ton of trades, and so over time it's not sustainable to do that. But anyway, so we're getting close here. This is just a part of trading, seeing that happen. It doesn't mean you took a bad trade. It just means that price just needed another little attempt. You can see here. So let me move this out of the way. When I was entering, it was based on these two legs, which maybe that was a little bit too thin looking back. I was mainly just looking at this reversal and how this measured move failed and it kept on going, and so I wanted to get in on that. But I am kind of thinking, I should have waited on something a little thicker, because we have this leg and then the second leg. Now I was mainly looking at the bodies here because, the bodies are bigger picture than the wicks. And so draw down to there, that's a good measured move. Right off that, it starts reversing higher. And so that's what this was based off of. But really, these two legs are pretty thin. They're not very separated. And I think I should have considered that a bit more, maybe. But the overall context was good because it ended up making a bigger picture measured move down before continuing higher. You see what I'm saying here? So let me go back. Whoops. So that's what this trade was. It was based on that, but I will say, I should have waited on something a bit, larger. But either way, the context was great. This uptrend had a break, first attempt at a new high, getting in on that second attempt on that retest. It just needed to push in a little bit more before taking off. And yeah, so now, it could make a triple top here. We'll see how price reacts. What I'd like to see is price push above, make a couple legs down, retesting it, and at that point, this uptrend will be played out. But if you get two attempts to reverse with a good hold, then you can still go long with the overall trend because it's reversing higher. And if it plays out but still can't reverse, then you just need to widen your channel, and then we'll start looking at something like this, and it possibly holding on this wider trend here. So that's what we got to consider. And yeah, so I don't know if I mentioned, but this is the ES on a 500 tick chart, and I'm gonna hop over to the 2000 tick chart. So on a 2000 tick chart, this is what we have here. That's our first spike up, couple legs down, making that second leg up here. And let's just compare these two charts real quick so it's easier to see the bigger picture and the smaller picture. So again, this is the 2000 tick ES chart. Or let's just mark up what we've got here on the recently. Push up, went into this range here. You can see from this low, it made a two-legged move up, and then that's where it found that resistance there. But it's so close to being a double bottom here that if it had made a couple legs back, you could have taken it as a failed second entry. I would have liked to see price spike up a bit more before doing that, just because I'd like to see couple clean legs to the EMA, but anyway, so price push on up here. You can see uptrend, break, new high, but it's very close to a double bottom, and so it really ended up acting like uptrend and then break and then push up to a new high right here. And then we got two attempts to reverse, ended up failing, pushing higher here, and that's what we got long on. And so, or we got long around here actually. So this downtrend played out with a break, to a new low, reversed on higher, and then you can see from this wick here, we got our first leg down, push back up to the high of this bar, and then second leg down. And that was what the entry was on this time frame. So let me go to the ES. The 500 tick. So from the top of this here. So again, this downtrend, break, new low is this right here. Downtrend, break, new low, reversal, reversal, first leg down, second leg down, first leg down up to this high right here, second leg down to this bar, and then got long here, wasn't quite enough, pulled back on me, then went higher. Two legs down, pushed up, got long here, ended up needing another attempt down, pulled back on me, then took off. So you got to be able to, it's very useful being able to see the price action on all levels. So, a lot of times people, they don't want to look, they'll see this, they'll go, oh, that's just noise. There's literally no such thing as noise. Like if you're trading higher time frame, then you don't really got to worry about, a lot of the smaller picture stuff, but it's truly not noise. It really is all the same on every level. Even if you were to go to a 50 tick chart, you'd see the same things. It might not look super clear, and it would be very fast, and it would be hard to follow, but the price action still holds the same on every time frame. And so I just wanted to explain that there. And yeah, so I'm gonna go ahead and kill this video now. I'll keep recording. I do plan to record a bit more today, so yeah, so I will see you all later, and I appreciate you watching, and yeah. Alright, so just for a quick update on the NQ, by the way, earlier in the video I referred to this as the 2000 tick. This is the 1000 tick chart for the NQ. So I just wanted to point out, so here's the bigger picture chart, and I was talking about this being a wick on the higher time frame chart, and then it was, and price is ending up holding on this channel right here. Notice how it bounced off that swing, and now it's holding off there. And so when I go to the other chart, like I said, when you draw a channel line off of the wick, that's often a hint of the bigger picture trend. This trend has a break and a clear spike up to a new high. So uptrend, break, new high, it's considered played out. We're getting a couple attempts to reverse, but you draw it right off that wick right there, and then it ends up holding directly to the wick from there. So it's just a way to give yourself a little hint of where the channel could extend to, but you do generally draw them off the bodies. And yeah, so just wanted to give a little update on that. And yeah, so right now we're on the NQ here. You can see these two legs up on a bigger picture is one leg. Copy that over, drag it to that here. Uptrend, two-legged break, push to a new high. So, it's the same over and over again. You just got to be able to spot it happening in real time, price action getting bigger picture. You got to learn to combine legs, like these two legs up. As soon as you get two legs up and it fails to reverse, you got to combine them because something bigger is coming. If a channel breaks and makes a new high but can't reverse, then you got to widen it. Something bigger is coming. That's just how it works. If a failure occurs, then you got to keep going in the direction. And so anyway, we have these two legs down in play, or I should say this measured move in play, and it's making that second leg down. And considering that overshoot, we have this up measured move in play still, but considering that overshoot, I'm going to want to wait for some confirmation. I'm not going to buy this as a measured move trade. I'm not going to just buy it right on the measured move. It could push through way too much, so I'm going to wait on confirmation. We could bounce, then push up into a smaller failed second entry, but anyway, I'm going to cut it here. I just wanted to give a quick update, and I'll see y'all in a bit. Alright, so we're looking at the... We're looking at the NQ here. We are getting short on this measured move. So we have this large downtrend. Initially it was, of course, this. We had a spike and channel down. We had this downtrend, break, push to a new low, and then a strong two-legged reversal. Although before I continue explaining, I'm going to get my risk to reward set up here. so I already had it set to where I wanted it to. So this is 100 ticks, 100 tick stop, 100 tick target, and basically, again, we have this large downtrend, two-legged break. At first, it was the two-legged reversal from the smaller downtrend playing out, but it's really just downtrend, two-legged break, and we start pushing on down to a new low, making the second leg down. And after we start making this second leg down, we push lower, and then we get this break right here. Initially, it's like this: we get a small break, push to a new low, and we reverse on out. So downtrend played out with a break to a new low, pushing into a reversal, and we're out. So when it reverses higher here, yeah, that's the bulls coming in due to the play out. The trend just played out with a break to a new low. But if you zoom out a little bit, it's pretty clear to see that this is all one leg on a bigger picture. And so this is really just a bigger picture two-legged break, and it's forming based on the smaller picture play out into a reversal. You see what I'm saying here? So anyway, but yeah, so I just wanted to mention here, I missed this, and then this right here was not a very good trade. I got stopped out right here. This was a little bit of an impulse, and yeah, so I'm gonna go over that. When this downtrend played out, we started pushing into that reversal. We had this leg up, a couple legs back right here, and the measured move was met. It's kind of chopped around a bit. I was looking for a long here, but ultimately I never got a good entry, because even though we had the bigger picture downtrend in play, or I should say the second leg at a new low, if we get a good hold, we can get in on that, because we know that this reversal is making the bigger picture break, and so we can get in on that for as far as it goes, meaning this measured move, these range highs, but it didn't work out, and it just kind of took off without me. And so then when it pushed up here, it started finding some resistance, and then it very suddenly had a sharp push down, and the measured move wasn't met, and I entered with a limit order. I just wanted to keep the target down to there, stop up to here, and that did end up resulting in getting stopped out, because I basically just kind of it was kind of impulsive. It really shot down there. I was not happy how it didn't reach the measured move, and it shot down. I was telling myself I'll wait for like a failed second entry with a clear hold, but right after I thought that, it just really shot down there, and then I got in with a limit order because I said, okay, this is probably enough. It's very bearish at this point, but I did ignore the measured move. I did ignore my rule. I wanted to see a clear hold below, because even though we have this down measured move in play, we also got that short-term play out right here, and it's attempting to reverse, and I didn't quite follow the rules, so I got hit. But that's just a part of trading. But it's whatever. As soon as it reached the measured move, I got another opportunity for the same entry, and so I'm happy about that. Obviously, it's basically like I only got 46 ticks out of this because of the stopped out trade right before, which yesterday was a great day, but I also took a stupid trade yesterday and got stopped out. Whatever, I'll just show it later. But basically, which I don't even remember, was that the ES or the NQ I got stopped? I forget. But anyway, right now we're looking at the NQ, and then I'm going to talk about this missed trade here. I was just out of the room for this. So when this downtrend got a two-legged break right here, the measured move wasn't met, clearly forming some resistance here though, and I only like it after it closes below the EMA here, because again, if the measured move is in play right here and you're unable to get below the EMA, then that's kind of an issue. So when it closes below here, I like it, but you would need a limit order at that price, because at the time the channel, or I should say the range, was like this, or it was like somewhere like this, and so you would have needed a limit order if you wanted to get out before that. Again, the measured move is still in play, and you don't want to expect price to push through too much support, and so you would need a little bit of a limit order after this bar opens and then triggers. I just don't know if it went back and filled after that. You know what I'm saying? So if you were trying to get in on that exact price with a limit order, I don't know if it worked for you, but But yeah, so every now and then this happens. You take a short, it gets stopped out, and then it goes right where you thought it was. In this case here, I caught the mistake, and so I re-entered. Um, but every now and then that happens. You cannot let yourself worry about it. Like personally, I don't even care that this just happened. And you know, sometimes people will take a loser, and then that will just turn into revenge trading and a nightmare. So, and also the other thing is that people do is they start raising their stops and they start trying to gamble. You can't do that. There's one thing I've never ever had an issue with is raising my stop. I've never adjusted my stop to give it more room a single time ever. And I know that that's an issue for a lot of people. That is the one thing when I've got into trading, that was the thing I really never struggled with, which I'm fortunate about, which is I never ever gave myself more room, give it more room, give it more room, because that is how you really screw yourself. And I have seen it happen before. Believe me, I have seen people get devastated from doing stuff like that. And the stories I've heard from people telling me their own personal stories, it's like, anyway, kind of what got on a side thing there. But now, at this point, this downtrend has a two-legged break and a first attempt at a new low. It didn't quite make that new low. Notice with the bodies it did. So there's wick right here, and then there's bodies right here. So bodies are more bigger picture than wick, so it very well could have counted as a new low. So it's, we could get a strong reversal from here, but it is still just a double bottom. We very easily could correct and then make a second one of these legs down, which could end up launching into a stronger move, a larger downtrend, and ultimately reach this larger down measured move. But we just got to stick with what price does. If we, I don't know for sure if it's going to reach this down measured move. We have to stick with what price does. If we get two attempts to reverse here and we get a clear hold and a clear bearish hold, then we can look to get short. But if price ignores this level right here, which it's a little more extended down at this point, it's actually fading back in now because I adjusted for that explanation. But if we rush above here and we get through this line up here, then okay, that means the bulls are coming in. And if we get a two-legged retest holding on the high, then we can look to get long on the reversal. Again, that would indicate that this did count as a playout. Downtrend, break, new low. Even though it's just a double bottom, again, you have to consider little things like, the body's pushed down to here where it's just wick, so it very easily could count as a new low. But, I'm trying to think if there's anything else I want to talk about before ending this. So yeah, that's really it for the day. This is definitely going to be my last recording for the day. And yeah, so I really hope you had a great trading day. Hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you learned something from it. And yeah, I'll see you next time.